I know I said I was gonna go over Bloodruth number 3, but I realized, if I'm not mistaken, I'll check through my channel again. I don't think I've covered, or not Bloodruth, excuse me, Yaira number 3, but I don't think I've covered Yaira number 2 yet on my channel as far as a deep dive. So today I'm going to start on my deep dive of ISOM number 3. I love this book. Yo, Yaira, she was there as far as my favorite Rippaverse character. But then ISOM number 3 dropped, and I was like, see, this is why I loved ISOM number 1. ISOM number 1 for me captured what any comic book universe that's just starting out should be. It wasn't a bunch of detail. It wasn't a bunch of flash. It gave you just enough, introduced just enough things. Some people said, it did too much, but I disagree. It did just enough to make me say, okay, now you've piqued my interest. I want to know more. And you came back for more, and you got a little more, and you said, oh, now I want to know what happens next. And here comes ISOM number 3 with like 100 and I don't know, what is it, 140 something pages or something like that. This is a big book. This is a big book. So this book, Cliff Richards, this is definitely 100% some of his best art, just as Eric July said it would be. This book picks up where we left off last time. We're in the cave. ISOM has just laid out a bunch of these beasts, whatever they are. I have no idea what they are. And he says they made it out. So he went there to save his ranch hand. I believe, I can't remember, his name was Dan. I think that was the name of his ranch hand. So ISOM, he went to punch, you saw it on this page, he went to punch one of these beasts, and for whatever reason, his punch did not land like he thought it should have. And so he's like, what the heck is happening? And he got cold cocked. You can tell he wasn't expecting that. And he's like, what's wrong with me? ISOM, in this book, you figure out that ISOM does have a weakness, but in figuring out that ISOM has a weakness, you also figure out that ISOM is way more powerful than we initially thought, way more powerful. And I think, this is what I think. I think as time goes on, we're going to find out that ISOM is actually one of the most powerful heroes in the entire Rippaverse. And it's the nature of his powers that you find out a lot more about in this book. So you see, he's about to get the paws put on him, but to the rescue comes Bloodruth's dog, gets Avery up out of there, because he wasn't, I mean, look at all of these beasts. He wasn't going to be able to handle all of them, especially not knowing what's going on with his powers right now. As powerful as he is, him having this flaw, and you find out a little more about it in this book, not a flaw, a weakness. You can see how this is going to work out so great in future stories when ISOM is having some epic battles. I can't wait to see some of that stuff, Lord willing. But I'm really digging this. I'm really digging this. So he gets saved. You see Avery's ranch hand. He's here with Bloodruth. And he says, this is all, or she says to him, this is all I've got lying around. Honestly, I couldn't even tell you where it came from. And he responds, it'll do. Look, I can't thank you enough for the help back there, but I best be getting back to the family. Wife is probably worried to death. And look, his wife is, I'm sure, no doubt, worried, trying to figure out what's happened. This is what sparked this whole thing. He was kidnapped. Now, here's the funny thing. So he's walking out, and he's going to take Avery's car because it's still there. Now, he's walking past a freaking dragon and a wolf just randomly sitting out here, and he's not saying nothing. Just everything's okay. Now, something is going on with the ranch hand, and these beasts, whatever realm they're from, they did something to him. There is more to meets the eye than what we can see right now. And even Bloodruth, she's like, nah, something don't sit right. She said something just isn't right. Kidnapping and depriving them of food, I need to understand the motives But these families need closure. Who were they? And so she uses her blood magic to figure out what's going on and who are these people. And she says they were not starved, they were murdered. And you see this grotesque, beastly looking dude. Try to get it out of the light so you can see. I have no idea who this dude is. Maybe he was covered in Bloodruth #1. I didn't read it. Again, horror books are not my cup of tea. Although the Saska sisters have launched, the Rippaverse have launched the 2 books coming out from the Saska sisters, Michael Copper's The Black Eye Club and Lillian Renashi's Cursed. I want to read those 2 books, and I hope they're not horror. Saska sisters, if you watch this, let me know. Are they horror? Or is it a thriller? I can do thriller, but horror, just not my cup of tea. But those are 2 characters that I have so many suspicions about them that I really want to find out if my suspicions are true. Not that I don't think it's all going to be wrapped up in those books. I think even in those books, I don't think they're really going to give us exactly who these 2 are, Michael Copper and Lily Renashi. And I think they aren't who we think they are. Of course, many comic books do that thing, but I think there is so much more to them, and I can't wait to find out. So Bloodruth says, I don't like when you do that. Her wolf just showed up, but she didn't see that he brought ISOM. She said, you survived. I don't think she was expecting Avery to survive. And I think this is kind of a silent hint at his powers and the magnitude of his powers. I think in her mind, she was like, yeah, nobody's surviving that. So now it's like, okay, this dude is really something if he survived. And he says, thanks to the pup. Sam is his name. I don't know why I said Dan. Sam left not too long ago. Good. He needs to get back to, and now he collapses. What's going on with him? There's something going on and something drained him. Every good hero has that weakness, right? Even Superman. If Superman had absolutely no weakness, he would be a boring character because Superman is overpowered. Who would be able to face him? Now, of course, you got, villains like Darkseid and Steppenwolf. They definitely have the chops to face him, but Superman with no weakness or kryptonite, man, that dude, he would just about be unstoppable. You wouldn't be able to read the book and be like, okay, so there is no stakes here. You don't have any weaknesses. Okay, she says, you need to rest. You fought through that whole horde. That's not it. Something is wrong with me. So he's figuring out that something is wrong with him, and he's trying to work himself through it, and he doesn't know. Right? He's like, I've never experienced this before. Why am I like this? What is wrong? And Bloodruth says, whatever's happening in that cave is beyond even my understanding. There is something bigger at work here. I'm not so sure. And she says, considering what I've seen, you'll have to trust me on this. That's not what I mean. I recognize your wealth of knowledge. So let me ask you this. Have you ever heard of peakers? Bloodruth's eyes get wide and she's like, what? Like, what? That's a myth. It can't be. And then you fast forward to a day later at BrookBriar Country Club. Now, I have a feeling for this to shock Bloodruth and for her to say this, like this is a myth. Yo, this tells me that there is going to be a heavy plot point in future books concerning that right there. And the one thing I do like, and this is not the first comic book universe to do this, but I like the very clear good versus evil background happenings because, I get the feeling that wherever these beasts are from, they're from an evil realm. If you know anything about Bloodruth's powers, where they come from, this goes back to Cain and Abel. And yes, I understand this isn't the first book to ever play off of Bible stories and narratives, but I like the way this is done because I was not expecting much of this when I started reading. And ISOM, this book right here, really shocked me. So you get into this meeting between none other than Darren, I don't know why I said Daniel, Darren Fontaino and Michael Copper. What are they meeting about? So have you pondered on the order? I have. I'm far more intrigued by your interest in the property. I assume that the cash would be enough to taper any worries. And he laughs and says, it would have been a decade ago. Ah, come on. A man of your stature shouldn't need to manage little clubs. You should be running places like this. And Darren responds, brother, where do you think these great people go to spice things up? Now, I'm telling you something. Darren Fontaino is like a slim version of Kingpin, but he's like I don't know if I could say even more dastardly than Kingpin, but I think to some degree, I see a level of tact with Darren Fontaino that I'm not going to say I've never seen this from Kingpin, but I think Darren Fontaino is going to turn out to be a little more diabolical, and I think there's going to be more to him than we realize. So he says to Michael Copper, perhaps we'll revisit at a later date. Merck has a special place in my heart, and I'm not ready to let it go. Now, if you remember in ISOM #1, you see Michael Copper and Lillian Renashi in the back of the club just chilling. This is right before Avery shows up, and the club just went to pandemonium. Because you remember he was trying to find a childhood friend of his, and oh, the way that story pays off in this book. Just so many things happen. So many things happen, and I loved it. So Darren Fontaino says, let's keep in touch. I'm sure there'll be other opportunities for business. So he's a cunning dude. He's ready to do business of some sort. Doesn't look like that went too well. It didn't. I've got other plans. He's a slick, and he used the word fatherless child. What do you mean? He owns this place too. So he didn't realize that there is way more to Darren Fontaino than they knew. This dude may not be as, what's the word I'm looking for? He may not be as green as you might think to a lot of things going on in this Rippaverse. Darren Fontaino grew up on the mean streets of Flores Park, and it seems like he understands what's going on, and he's built quite the empire for himself. Now, I'm sure, this is just my guess, I'm sure after the Great War of Separation and how everything played out, at some point people realized the fragility in government. And because of that, I get the impression that Darren Fontaino was that kind of dude that said, you know what, I'm going to make sure I build such a, I don't want to say platform, such a life for myself that no matter what they do, I'm taken care of. He's got his goons. He's got his empire. They're in position. Remember, no casualties. We just want to bring him out. So where do they go? They go to Avery's house, or his mom and dad's house, because they're trying to, intimidate him. Now, this is what they don't know. Now, and I didn't know this when I read this book. Obviously, after reading this book, I figured it out. And also you see it in the Great War of Separation too. And I'm not going to give it away if you haven't read the book. You probably have. If you're watching this video, you probably have. So I'll say it before we get to it. I always thought it was Avery's dad that had the powers, especially after reading that first Great War of Separation, but it's not. It's his mom that has the powers. Now, still, something about his dad. I got questions. Eric, I got questions. I think you're pulling a fast one on us, and I think there's actually more going on with his dad than we know. So she says, so what did that daughters of ours want? Nothing. Altona can be a little dramatic. She was just checking on us. The older we get, the more frequently she calls. Meanwhile, we'll be lucky to hear from her brother every other week. I think this is just men are just this way. I'm not saying it's right or it's good. When you get out and you start forging your own path, you don't really consult with home as much. You do check home. Obviously, you talk to your parents, but men get busy. Not that women don't get busy too, but I think men just have I'm not gonna say a harder time, but typically when you start doing your own thing, you get wrapped up in that. So his dad says he keeps busy out there because he's got a lot of things going on, and he knows that he's got his ranch. That's a lot to take care of. A ranch is no small task to take care of. So he says, but I never get the feeling that he's too far away. Plus, we raised him to be a self-sufficient man. I didn't get him out of this house only to have him blow up my phone. Yo, this is a classic. Look, I have kids. And the one thing I can tell you is it is easier for men to let the kids fly the coop than it is for women, for mothers. I've experienced this in my own life with my kid's mother and me. I love my kids. I miss my kids, but I like seeing them out doing their own thing. It makes me proud. If they couldn't do their own thing, if I raise these kids and they go out and they can't do their own thing, then I missed something. There's something I didn't do. And I think that's kind of the feeling that his dad is giving off. Like, I raised him to send him out. So yeah, of course he's doing his own thing. I'm just saying, I like to hear from my baby a little more. Let me go check on the pies. Women, this is it. And I like the way he wrote that, because it doesn't matter how old you get, your mom will always refer to you as her baby. It does not matter. So now you see these dudes coming over their fence, and oh boy, his dad is a scrapper. I tell you what. Now I think he has powers. This is just my guess. I think he was holding back in this, but he held his own. So they said, "Nice to finally meet you, Mr. Silman." And she says, "What? Didn't mean to barge in. Got a moment?" Yeah, this is not going to go how they think. This is not going to go. And you see, if you're looking at the panels, you see his dad out there scrapping with 3 dudes. He's getting busy. He says, "You're trespassing. We're right where we need to be. Your son been around? You're trespassing. Leave. Mr. Silman, you didn't answer the question. I said," and he cold cocked that dude. I was like, yo, he put, okay, Mr. Silman straight up putting a pause on people. I like it. Get busy. There was a lot of action in this book, a lot of action. So, you see they're in there with the mom, and he says, "We're looking for Avery, and I'm hoping you can assist with that." She yells out, "Jacob," his dad. "You're not going anywhere. But if you want to make this difficult, consider this a parting gift." So they hit her over the back with a chair. Now, if you read The Great War of Separation, then you know how this is going to work out. But again, Jacob is out there getting to work, taking on 3 dudes. Now, this is why I say, now he's strong, but I think he's holding back. And I think there's more to him. I really think there's more to him. So he yells out for his wife, Harriet. And, the dudes go to jump on his back. They put him on the ground. So they hit her over the back. And he said, "Sorry about that." She says, "You dared. You stepped into our home, our place of solace. And though you will be unsuccessful, you're attempting to rob me of it all." So she thinks that they're just there to rob. She doesn't know the extent to what's going on. "The world is already cruel enough. A person should at least find a place in their own home. How many families have you torn apart by taking that from them?" And she, oh my goodness, she is going to put the paws on these dudes. She going to beat them senseless. All right, that's enough. Shut this. And yet you threaten me in my own home. You can tell she is incensed. Like, how dare you come in my house and threaten me? Dude, are you serious? Without hesitation, this isn't the first time you've done this. May the Lord have on you what I cannot promise, mercy. And she beats the brakes off these dudes. Oh my goodness, this was so glorious to watch. Snap the one dude's wrist. She says, "Take your friends, leave, and never make this mistake again." Yeah, broke all of their wrists. She is not playing. And she says, "Babe," yelling out to her husband, "I'm okay. They left. Are you hurt? I took down 3 of them out back. They ran off over the fence. Come on, let's get into the safe room. I'll grab the shotgun." This is crazy. And then this is something I think we'll end there for today. We'll probably go into more. This is a big book. We'll probably go into more the next time around. I'll try to maybe get more than halfway through. But like I said, this is a big book. So big that there's probably going to be 5 parts, 5 or 6 parts to this. But I like the way this book began. A lot of people had their criticisms and their complaints about the book. Look, to each his own. But I will say, I thoroughly enjoyed reading every single page and looking at all the artwork in this book. Quality, as I've said before, and I'll say it again. You can say what you want about the Rippaverse. Their books are quality. I know what I'm getting when I buy one of their books.